The Mandalorian and Grogu is now in cinemas and I've just watched it. Let's discuss. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new then welcome on in. My name is Jay. This is my review for The Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm going to try and stay away from spoilers, but if you don't want to know anything about the film, then just save the video to your watch later playlist and come back later when you have seen it. Also, very quickly before we get started, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button and click the bell as well. That way you're notified when I post a new video. The numbers on the channel are growing and I would love to have you join as well if you have not already. Without further ado, let's get into it. So in preparation for The Mandalorian and Grogu, I decided that I was going to watch the original TV show, which of course is just titled The Mandalorian. I'd heard really good things about it, but I'd never jumped on that ship when it first came out on Disney Plus a few years ago, and I felt like now was the best time to finally do that. If you're wondering going into this film that if you need to have seen all 3 seasons of that original show, whether it's essential viewing or not, I can confidently tell you that it definitely isn't. There is some on-screen text at the very beginning of the film which very clearly tells us where we are in the Star Wars timeline and where our two main characters, the Mandalorian and Grogu, are at. But to my surprise, the movie doesn't really reference anything that's happened in the show, any of its plot points that viewers may have already seen if they have seen that original show. I was a little bit surprised by that because it does start with that familiar title card that, of course, every episode of the show started with. This time it's playing a little bit with that because it's not just the Mandalorian, it adds on and Grogu, which was quite cool, along with that familiar soundtrack. But yeah, not a lot of reference to events that have already happened. Some people might view that as a good thing because it means that you don't have to do any homework going into the show, which of course is something that Marvel, the MCU, is often criticized for. But equally, if you have seen the show and we're hoping for some universe connections or follow-ups to things that we've already seen, you're not going to get them. This feels very standalone and separate from the show. I will say that I'm not like a mad Star Wars fan that's seen absolutely everything. I have seen all of the main films, but aside from The Mandalorian, the original show, that's the only one that I've actually seen. So there may be some recognizable faces that I'm sure a lot of people that are all up in their Star Wars knowledge might be able to recognize, but they certainly don't do anything significant in the film. In regards to the two leads that we have, which of course is Pedro Pascal's The Mandalorian and his adopted child Grogu, I didn't feel that they went through any sort of meaningful development or character arc. By the end of the film, I kind of felt that we were left in pretty much an identical situation to where they began, and that's a recurring theme throughout the film. There really wasn't many stakes at play. A lot of time is spent on Grogu and his innate ability to make people laugh and care about him. He's got that cuteness factor that I think the writers were certainly trying to lean into, and for the most part, I think that was a smart way to do it. I certainly enjoyed watching him, and I think the rest of the audience I was watching with did as well. There were some kids in the audience in the cinema that I was in who were laughing a lot, so it certainly worked for them. I will say that it might have been overdone a little bit though, in my opinion. There is a period in the film where Grogu is on his own, he's away from the Mandalorian for reasons that I won't spoil. But there's only so much you can do with a character like that who doesn't have any dialogue. He cannot speak on his own. And I think cutting that sequence down a little bit would have helped speed things along. At 2 hours and 10 minutes, the film feels overly long. And I think that's because the actual narrative structure feels a bit stitched together. For the entire film, I did feel like I was just watching more of the Mandalorian TV show. I wasn't really sure what the reason was that we made this into a film instead of just making a season 4. Even if there weren't any connections or meaningful connections to things that had happened before, this definitely felt at one point it was envisioned to be just the continuation of the original story that we got, with each part of the film feeling a little bit episodic and put into these installments that they tried to connect together. I did enjoy a lot of the action sequences, but in regards to what I was saying about the movie feeling episodic, there were so many different monsters that they were just throwing in for our heroes to fight. It was getting a bit tiresome, and having a new CGI monster every 10 minutes, no matter how many times you do it or how different that you make it from the previous one, it's not enough to keep me engaged. There are other characters in the film. There's this pilot friend of the Mandalorian, but they never said what his name was, so no idea about him. Sigourney Weaver has joined the Star Wars universe as well. She has been doing the red carpet, she's been doing the press screenings, but in this 2 hour, 10-minute film, she had, I think, 5 minutes of screen time. So yeah, nothing meaningful there. The villains of the film are also very boring and predictable. They've got no substance to them, and at one point they were just looking down on Mandalorian doing their villainous maniacal laugh as he struggled. Speaking of cliche, there was actually one point where there were two characters who were not getting along, but then they were given a common enemy to fight against, and one of them actually turned to the other and went, our only way to get out of this is if we work together. I mean, maybe I'm being overly harsh, but I did laugh a little bit at that. Overall, I really would have preferred more on the relationship between Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm not saying that we didn't get any of that, but it was a lot of things that we'd already seen before in the show. They care for each other, I get that, but let's go further with it. The story that we did get, in my opinion, was just a little bit underwhelming. If I could give one word to describe Mandalorian and Grogu, it would be disappointing. I enjoyed the TV show a lot, even that third season that a lot of people say is of lower quality than the first two. And while I think I do agree with that, if I was to rank all three seasons and this film together, this would be bottom of the list. I would unfortunately have to give that 2.5 stars as the final rating. Disappointing, and it's a shame because I thought after so many years of Star Wars just being on streaming, this is finally the big return to the big screen. I thought it would be more of a big event and everyone would be rushing to see it because of so many good things were being said about it, but unfortunately I just didn't feel that way. A bit of a letdown. That is all for this video. Again, please do hit that subscribe button and hit the bell. And whether you agree or disagree, please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I don't know if I'm in the minority. I've not really looked at the reviews for this film. I'm going to do that after this video, but I would love to know your thoughts as well. Anyway, that is all for this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.